Welcome to Let's Talk ADHD with Alex High, and today, Marc Almodovar, right?
Yep.
Okay, we were talking about how to pronounce his name before we hit record, so I'm really glad I got it right. And as someone who's got a last name that's pronounced differently than it's spelled, really appreciate when people take the time to do that. So I try and do it myself. Anyway, welcome, Marc. Marc is the founder of the Men's ADHD Support Group. We connected over Instagram way back in 2019, I think we were saying,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and have stayed in touch ever since. And I've been on his podcast, and now he's on my YouTube show. So thank you, Marc. So tell us, what's your ADHD story?
Yeah. So pretty much my whole life, I've always known that I was a little bit different than the everyday individual. I mean, most of my childhood photos are taken by my dad. And in those photos, you can see me being kind of in my own world, lots of imagination. School reports would say things like Mark is there, but not really there, sloppy handwriting, disorganized desk, the whole spiel, except for the hyperactive part. The hyperactivity was more in my brain. We could talk more about that later, but my whole life, I've always known that I operated a little bit differently than the everyday individual because um, while I struggled quite a bit paying attention in the school system, my attention towards things like Batman, who we were talking about earlier, was above and beyond. I watched Batman the animated series. I knew all there was about Bruce Timm, all the editors, the music behind it, everything like that. So it was kind of like this all or nothing way of operating um, that I definitely noticed early on was a little bit different than everyone else. And when I was 16 years old, at that point in my life, I had lived like most ADHDers do, unfortunately, where we live our life not having the tools that we need to thrive. We don't know how our brain works, proper medication, and all that type of stuff. And when I was 16, I had found myself at a place where I was severely depressed. I was really struggling in school, about to get that back. And I, it was the first time in my life that I actually admitted to needing some type of help. And that's what led me to getting a diagnosis with ADHD. I was diagnosed with predominantly inattentive with a little bit of hyperactivity. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, that is me to a T. All the ADHD symptoms, forgetfulness, disorganization, hyperfocus, like that was me. And it was a green light in my life because I was like, okay, now I know how my brain works, and now I can do something about it. It's like you can't learn how to drive the car if you don't know what the car is, you
Mhm.
know. So that's what that moment was like for me. And 16 years old, getting diagnosed was definitely an interesting process. But it's a moment that obviously changed my life.
So you were diagnosed at 16,
Yeah.
and how old are you now?
I am funny that you asked that. I just forgot my age. Literally, I had to think about it, but I just remembered. So y'all know it's real. I am a 27, about to be 28.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's been almost 12 years.
that's right. Yep.
And so in those 12 years, you founded a nonprofit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll talk about what the nonprofit is, but my first question about founding a nonprofit is I once looked into founding a nonprofit, not ADHD related, but the form to make a nonprofit was enough for me to go, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to do it. So how did you get that done?
Yeah. That was hard. There's so many layers to that whole story right there, but I have been extremely fortunate when the men's ADHD support group began taking off. At the time, it was the ADHD men's support group. We had a slight grammar change. Um, we blew up tremendously, and it was a vision that not only I believed in, but a bunch of other people who do work behind the scenes in the ADHD community believed in too. And I looked out big time. So I didn't do it all myself by any means. Um, I had people, specifically my operations director, Shane Thrapp, who's amazing and a genius, come along the work that we were doing. And he's somebody he has ADHD, but he also has autism.
Mm.
And he has a lot of aspects about himself where there's a lot of order and structure and things like that. And we've kind of completing that form and creating the pain in the butt process of starting a nonprofit was done with him doing his strengths and me doing mine.
Mm.
Like I'm the forefront, the face of the organization, leadership stuff. That's all me, and he is the behind the scenes, the um, he's the backbone of the organization. Is basically what I'm saying. So the summary is I had someone who's good at that stuff do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome. So tell us a bit about the men's ADHD support group, because we hear a lot when we're at the ADHD conference. There's a big push for ADHD in women and all that stuff. And I'm not saying that's bad. We
Yeah.
definitely need that because they're underdiagnosed and they have a whole different experience with ADHD. But how did the men's ADHD support group come about?
Yeah. So right around the time that I started taking my own ADHD very seriously, that all or nothing mindset came about. And I really, really got invested into my personal growth. I started reading and learning from the greats like Ned Hollowell and Russell Barkley. And that changed my life tremendously. And I wanted to start learning how I can help other people. And I had gotten a life coaching certification. So I thought to myself, like, why don't I start working with people with ADHD, making content around this because that's who I am. Those are the people that I relate to the most. And I started doing that, and I started building a lot of connections, people like yourself and other different leaders in this space. And the thing that struck my eye was that boys and men are the ones that are highly diagnosed with ADHD. But when it came to the support groups or the safe spaces that existed for men with ADHD, there wasn't any at the time. And that blew my mind. Like women are underdiagnosed with ADHD, and there's a growing and needed um, spaces for them and all that. So while going for a walk, I just thought to myself, you know what? Let me just try out this ADHD men's support group on Facebook. Probably no one's going to join, but hey, at least I could say I tried, and I did it. And about a year went by, and we were actually a pretty small community. We were about maybe 70 to 80 members for the first year, and low engagement, all that. And then once the pandemic hit,
Mm.
things just completely shifted. We went from a small growth to about 100 members a week. And my buddy John Hazelwood came along, who does work for Black men with ADHD,
Mm.
and he came along to this journey, and he was like, "Dude, let's turn this into something more than just a Facebook group. Let's make an actual community. Let's do Zoom meetings." And um, yeah, and then it grew from there. The community now reaches over 17,000 members. We just hit that mark recently. We're a nonprofit organization, and we get to do awesome things like present at the International ADHD Conference and be on all types of podcasts and whatnot. And it's really great to see um, this moment where ADHD kind of worked in my favor. You know what I mean? It was an impulse idea that I followed through on, and it changed my life.
Yeah, no doubt. So, what's been your key to success?
My key to success is actually what I tell a lot of people with ADHD, and it's that to me, when we operate this way, the goal shouldn't be to make ourselves normal.
Mm.
Like now, obviously, there are some things that we need to do, like reminders and calendars and medication, because there are some non-ADHD friendly day-to-day life tasks in which we have to learn to get done.
Mhm.
However, if you're someone like me who is a really good public speaker, really good at managing people, I should be doing things like that more as opposed to doing some boring 9 to 5 job that would make me miserable and would take me forever to get good at. To me, my success has been attributed to the fact that I have given up on refraining from being who I am.
Mm.
And I have really gotten to know what my strengths are and how I can use those strengths to make me money and to do great work like this.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of ADHDers fall short. It's it's like the good news is that we have this way of operating and you don't have to learn how to be normal.
Mm.
you, you have your strengths, like start to learn how to use your strengths to your advantage.
Yeah. That's something I talk about a lot in my businesses, or I try to talk a lot about, is using your strengths and not just trying to improve a weakness,
Yeah,
focus so much on where you struggle, but doing those things that you're good at. Yeah.
right. Yeah, and then outsourcing as much as possible. I work with a team. I am not good at everything. I am not good at structure and organization. So for me, I find those people who can do the things that I really struggle with and share the same vision,
Mhm.
and that has benefited me tremendously. You know, it's exhausting to live life otherwise. and other, so
I think I speak for a lot of people who lived a number of years living that way. It is exhausting.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's a self-awareness game to me, and I've learned to I've done a lot of work of myself with therapy and coaching, and the thing is that a lot of people with ADHD also struggle with self-confidence, which makes sense. I mean, my friend Ingrid Shea said this number. I forgot the number, but it's like we have like 20,000 more negative thoughts or more negative comments towards us than the neurotypical individual. I don't know where that source is, but I've found it to be very true in my life.
Hmm.
And um, what we need to do as people with ADHD is learn how to is learn to understand our strengths, like I mentioned earlier, but also know that we have a place in this world, and that because we have our own set of struggles, that doesn't mean that we have to spend our lives beating ourselves up about it. You know what I mean? Like where things have changed for me is like I hope you're okay with me talking about this, but like
Oh, go
I
for it.
like last week we were supposed to do this meeting, and
Hmm.
I double booked myself. I had forgotten that I double booked myself for a whole nother workshop. And where my life has changed here is that I've learned to look at that with what I refer to as healthy self accountability.
Hmm.
So it's not, the language is not, I double booked myself. I'm the worst person ever. How could I have done this? It's, I double booked myself. The good news is that I'm not defined by this.
Hmm.
And what can I learn from this to prevent this from happening again?
Yeah,
Those
that's
conversations
great
have changed.
mindset. And the other thing is, you're working with another person with ADHD, so like I was
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah, yeah. I've been on the receiving end of that, and it's something that it's something that we come across in this community. So uh,
Hmm.
I definitely am the person that I talk to. When I'm
Hmm.
doing this.
So I'm curious. This is a question I like asking people on this show. What unusual thing do you do because of ADHD?
When you ask that, I think about like which one do I want to go with right now. What unusual thing do I do? I mean, I would say that I don't have like a deep philosophical, I think that's a word, answer for you right now. But I would say that the typos that I make are pretty epic. Like I will not even make a typo on the word. Like I'll miss the whole word altogether.
Oh, I do that too.
Yeah, and it's because um my brain is so 100 miles an hour and like on to the next thing, and it's kind of like there's moments that I don't remember. I don't think to push the brakes a little bit,
Mm.
and those moments are reflected in some of my Instagram captions and my emails. And like recently in my work, I sent this huge email about this like important document that everybody had to take a look at and read through. And as soon as I send it, I get a response saying, "Hey, this is great, but where's the document?" So that's one of the many unique things that I do with this type of brain.
I'm lucky that I have a Gmail email address because if I say attached is this document and I try to hit send without attaching it,
Yeah,
Google will let me know.
yeah, yeah.
But
That's great. That's great.
yeah.
Microsoft should do that.
Yeah, I mean it's handy. So things like that that are happening in the world kind of give me hope that more
Yep.
people will catch on and
Yeah, no doubt. And it's fun too. Like some of the stuff too, like when I open up the fridge and forget why I opened up the fridge in the first place. Like
mm,
some of that stuff I've also learned to laugh at that stuff. Like I
mhm,
kind of find it funny that I'm this way sometimes, you know what I mean?
mhm. And I think having a sense of humor, great coping mechanism.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Not taking myself too seriously.
we're getting close on our time here. I have a question I want to ask you, and you can relate this to ADHD or not.
Yep.
So I have a belief that all Batman fans have an Alfred quote that really speaks to them. What is that Alfred quote for you?
I'm laughing right now because I'm actually having an ADHD moment right now where I forgot the quote, but I remember it being powerful. And it's when it's in Batman Begins. I remembered it. I'm so excited. I remembered it. It's in Batman Begins when the house is burning down and they're like the elevator went all the way down, and Bruce was feeling really defeated, and Alfred didn't have an original quote, but he quoted Thomas Wayne on "What do we do when we fall? We get
Mm,
right back." That's a good one for people with ADHD. I like that moment right there.
yeah, no, it's a great moment. And Alfred is such a great character. Like we often think of him as like just a butler, but he's so much more than that.
Yeah, yeah. Man helped him build the whole Batcave. you know,
Yeah. And we
um,
need and those of us with ADHD need someone like an Alfred to stand by our side and cheerlead us, you know?
yep, yep, yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because you mentioned we're wrapping up, and this is something I love to relay to people with ADHD. Um, when we're talking about taking on that battle of building self-confidence and learning all the tools that we need to cope with this type of brain, we have to recognize that it's a battle. I've learned everything about ADHD. I've learned all the best tools and tips, and there are still moments where my brain gets the best of me. And a huge shift in my life in the past few years is that now I don't take that battle on alone. As I have my circle. I have my 3 to 4 friends that I can call when the highs are high and when the lows are low. And that's one of the ways that we can use social media to our advantage. We can find other people who put out great content, just like yourself, just like the Men's ADHD Support Group or any other ADHD source. And we can connect with other people. We can meet people who operate just like us because we're not alone. We're not as alone as we think we are. And social media can either have a positive effect on your mental health or a negative one. And if you want it to have a positive one, you got to use it in ways to connect with your community.
Mm, I love that. I love that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So what question should I ask you that I haven't asked you yet?
I don't know. I don't really know. When people ask me that, I do get a little stuck with that one.
Mm,
I think that you asked the right questions,
mm,
and when I'm getting interviewed, I actually don't want to be asked questions like what fidget tool is best or what
Mhm.
timer is great out there, because all that stuff you can easily find online. Um, I want to spend time talking to the people with ADHD who are beating themselves up and
Mm.
tell them that this is a new day and you can live your life from here on out, not letting your past define you, and you can bounce back. That's the key. So I like getting into the deep stuff, which we most certainly touched on in this interview, and I appreciate the Batman question tremendously.
Good, 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 good. Okay, so last question then is, we've talked about the men's ADHD support group. We've talked a little bit about your work and all that stuff. If people want to follow you, contact you, learn about the men's ADHD support group, where would you send them?
Yeah, we have a website, men's ADHD supportgroup.org. And then all of our social media handles are men's ADHD support. So you can find us there. If you Google men's ADHD support, we're the first thing that comes up. So we have a Facebook group, Discord, TikTok, you name it. We're on almost every single platform and you can connect with us.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Cool.
Anything else you want to promote?
Nothing off the top. I mean, one thing that's been huge for us is that we do monthly events at the Men's ADC Support where we bring in all types of experts. Like we had my friend Dr. Kellen Parcells do an
Mm.
amazing event. William Dotson spoke at our group. That was amazing. But if you go to our website and you look at our upcoming events, we always have something amazing going on. And who knows, we might even get Alex High on someday.
Maybe. Who knows?
Would love, would love to have you, man.
Yeah, that'd
So
be great.
yeah, we do all types of events that are open to the public, and for men with ADHD, if you want a safe space to be a part of, definitely check out our community on Facebook and our bi-weekly Zoom meetings.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Mark. It was a pleasure to talk with you again. Always a pleasure to connect with you. And thanks for watching.
Yeah, I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you.